What is Project 2025? I thought I would find the top 20 concerning items on this document, more than 900 pages document that you can easily find online that is out. It is a part of a MAGA agenda. And although Trump says he has nothing to do with it, it's absolutely something that his potential vice president has something to do with, JD Vance. And we all know that Trump lies when he's every time he talks. So he most likely has something to do with it as well. A lot of the people in his cabinet would have something to do with it. So it's important that we know what it is. It is 900 plus pages. So there's so much more that I will not cover, but I wanted to go over just a few items so that you know quickly. Okay, first, eliminating the marriage penalties in federal welfare programs. What this basically means is that it could disproportionately benefit traditional married couples, quote unquote, men and women, nuclear family, benefit them and then make it harder for single parents and non-traditional families, LGBTQ plus, or just something that is not considered traditional to the random people who are doing this. So they would lose their benefits and have to fight for them. The next one is installing work requirements for food stamps. Now, this makes sense and it sounds reasonable at face value, but what it really means is that people who have a hard time finding work, which I have been on food stamps before in my life, and I know what that's like to go look for work and not be able to find it and then be hungry, they would not have the benefits. Or let's say you're disabled or you're something is happening with your mental health and you're just not able to find or keep work, you would lose your benefits under this Project 2025. The next one is removing terms like sexual orientation and gender identity from federal rules and regulations. And this could undermine protections that LGBTQ plus people like myself and others, so many millions of others, have had. And it would increase discrimination and make it legal to discriminate in multiple ways and marginalize people. The next one is outlawing pornography and classifying educators who purvey it as sex offenders. Okay, so this one may seem funny, but if you think about the people who have this in mind, one of the main facts about Project 2025 is they care about the family unit and keeping that pristine, although most of them themselves have cheated or are accused of sexual assault or other deviants. Um, but what this means is whatever they consider pornographic. So let's say a teacher, an educator, or even someone with an online course. Let's just say you're teaching about something, but you're pulling from a book that has a gay character, or you're pulling from a book that talks about consent or talks about something sex in a way that they can claim is pornographic under this Project 2025, which is this transition to power, the first I believe 90 days or 180 days, this is what they'll do. They would be able to, throw you in jail or at least shut you down if you were doing that. And that we've already seen banning of books. It's not far fetched. This could be Handmaid's Tale, a fantastic television show, but a horrible future for us if it's real. So pay attention. So the next one is shuttering telecommunications firms that would hold pornography. Again, same thing. If some site that they deemed pornographic, they could just say the word, they could just say it, and it would be over. So it would just be this line that kept moving in the sand. Line in the sand keeps moving. And at first it sounds funny, it sounds reasonable even to some people, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. The next one is prioritizing family authority and cohesion as a top policy goal. And what this means is that some of the policies might enforce traditional, again, family roles and undermine efforts to support diverse family structures. And I'm not just talking about LGBTQ plus, I'm talking about interracial marriages. I'm talking about marriages between different religions that could go there. I mean, it could get really, really scary. The next is universal school choice and emphasizing parental rights as primary educators. Sounds wonderful, right? It's supposed to allow parents the freedom to choose their children's school, including private or charter schools, with the funding following that student. But the problem is it could develop and implement school choice programs that divert funds from public schools to private schools and charter schools. exacerbating educational inequalities and reducing support for public education. Essentially, what they could say is all of our children, and you know what they mean by that, are going to get to go to these private schools, and we're also going to take the money with them. And so public schools are not going to get anything, and they're just going to devolve and have no backing, and there's nothing we can do about it. Just imagine that for a moment. And imagine, even if you're in a private school now with your children, or you went to a private school and you said, well, that's a good thing. I want the ability to be able to choose. You can choose now. You can choose today whether to go to a private school, a charter school, or a public school. What they're doing is masking choice, quote unquote, with this. The next is dismantling the administrative state and returning self governance to the American people. What it's saying is, what it's saying out loud, much like libertarians, is saying we want to reduce the power and size of federal agencies, giving more control back to the state and local governments and individuals. Hey, I want that too. I think that's a great idea, but that's not what they mean. What they mean is they want to drastically reduce oversight and weaken important government programs that help protect the environment, public health, and civil rights. If you were to read many pages of this 900-page document, you would find these actual things that they really mean, shrouded in decency. Next is defending national sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Of course, we want to be safe. Of course, we want to defend ourselves. It's meant to, or stated that it's going to protect the country's borders and reduce harm from, terrorists. What it really means is it would have stricter immigration policies and reduce international cooperation, and it would foster isolationism and xenophobia. So we would essentially, anyone who, if you're yourself someone who even looks like you're not supposed to be in America, which I don't know what that means, but it's them, right? um um this is going to cause so much more. You saw this when Trump was first elected. I mean, you saw it the whole time, but you saw it when he was first elected. And remember, people were at the airports, people were not being let in. They had to deploy different lawyers that could help people get in who had been here, who were just on vacation, just coming back home, or people who had been promised green cards and were turned away. That's what's going to happen, but it's going to be 100 times worse. And there's not going to be, most likely, the ability for those lawyers to do anything about it. Because what they want to do in this Project 2025 is dismantle all of the things that we have known our whole lives. They want to just break it apart and rebuild. And I understand, let me stop here for a second and say that I do understand if you are someone who's felt disenfranchised, and you're someone who has felt like the government has disappointed you and let you down and doesn't care about you, regardless of who the president is. I understand that feeling, and I sometimes obviously feel the same way. But what MAGA, Make America Great Again, Trump, what they're all doing, JD Vance, Marco Rubio, um, all of these characters, what they're really doing is they want to use our disillusionment with the country. And when I say our, I mean um, uh, Black and brown people, immigrants, and poor white people, or white people who are very, very, very wealthy, who also don't like government controls. They're trying to scare us so much that we say, yeah, you have a plan. You make it better for me. That's awesome. Thank you. And what they're really doing is they're going to make it better for themselves. They're going to make it better for themselves and let the rest of us just burn, or just fall to this rubble of just a state that we've never even seen. We've only seen this in movies that were like apocalyptic movies. And I don't mean to say that in a way that's like, oh my God, I'm trying to scare you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to inform you, because it is the truth. So the securing individual rights to live freely as outlined in the Constitution is one of their main things. What this really means is that they could roll back regulations that safeguard public health, the environment, and civil rights under the guise of protecting individual freedoms. Let me tell you something. Especially someone who may be a Black person, or a woman, or someone or other who is interested in voting for Trump. I want you to ask yourself, would Trump, if you showed up to Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida tomorrow, and you wore what you normally wore, or you dressed up, you got dressed up for it, and you showed up at the front door, how do you think his team would treat you? Members only, I get it. They may not let you in because of that. But how do you think they would treat you? Do you think that they would let you in? Do you think that Trump would let you in to be his friend? Do you think that he cares anything about you? No, the answer is no. I'm going to just shortcut it for you. Okay, next, 11. Assembling a vetted and trained conservative workforce to implement this policy agenda. It just means a bunch of people like Trump, and even worse, because Trump doesn't know anything. Like, he mentioned recently that he didn't know what NATO was before he became president. And that's concerning. So he is dangerous in so many ways because of his ego, but he is not as dangerous as it could get. And what it could get is the people around him. And so what they're saying is they would develop a personnel database of their people and training programs to prepare conservatives for government positions. So it wouldn't be this balance that we have now where people are able to fight and able to have these kind of crazy sometimes conversations. It would just be like all Gilead. It would just be all Handmaid's Tale, all the guys dressed in suits. And if you're a woman there, you're probably brainwashed or something. And I know I'm making generalizations. I know that I've spoken to people who are Trump enthusiasts, who are, I think, reasonable people, but I don't know. We're at 11 of 20, and if you still feel that way, I don't know what to say to you. But I'm going to keep trying. So the next one, 12, creating a presidential administration academy for educating and training government personnel is the same as number 11. But it just might serve as a indoctrination. So once they have the personnel, they have the database that they're pulling. Okay, we want these people. It sounds a lot like something I read about in Germany a few decades ago, by the way. But we have these people. Now we're going to train them and we're going to indoctrinate them. We're going to have curriculum that is specifically to reinforce what you've learned. So if anybody's teetering, if anybody in your life is on the brink, they may sign up for this and never be able to come back from it. Forming agency teams and drafting transition plans from incoming administration. This is to prepare detailed plans and teams to ensure a smooth transition. But what it really means is it would affect all federal agencies and focus on this transition planning, and it would prioritize rapid implementation of these controversial policies without sufficient public debate or input, undermining the democratic process. So all of the things I've listed and the ones I'll continue to list, what they're saying is, and they're saying it online very blatantly, they're sponsoring the Republican convention, this group of people. They're not making it it's not a quiet thing or a manifesto that they sent anonymously. This is on their site. They're saying all these things that we're going to do, we're going to do them within the first few months that Trump or our people, are in place. And I have a feeling that even Trump himself will no longer have power. What will happen is they'll install him, they'll use him to be installed, and then he'll cease to matter, because they'll all be in there because there'll be thousands of them. There are thousands of people in government right now. Look it up. There are thousands of people who work for the US government. They're saying that they're going to all be replaced by this MAGA, uh, highly conservative, but even there's not even conservative. It's just like January 6th loving people. Next, ensuring federal power is used to reverse the family crisis, as they call it, and rescue America's kids from familial breakdown. What they're saying is they want to address issues like single parent households and family disintegration to support children's well-being. Well, first of all, many of the people behind this are people who have, including Trump, people who have been accused of raping children or teenagers, people who have been accused of molesting, people who have been, if not themselves, supportive of others who have these accusations. So you can miss me with all that. What really will happen is that this will involve an intrusive government intervention in family matters. So the same people who are saying we want to give back the individual autonomy, we want people to be able to think for themselves, they're blatantly saying They would target single parent homes. So how are you a single parent? Do you want them in your home? Do you want this group in your home telling you what to do, taking away your rights, or telling you what you can and cannot do with your child? And LGBTQ plus families under the guise of protecting children. That alone should scare the hell out of you. The next one, um, deleting terms like diversity, equity, inclusion from federal documents. This has already started, but this would be like federally mandated, taking away DEI programs, but not even acting like it is a problem or that it's something that ever existed. It would halt all efforts to promote equality and address systemic discrimination. There would be no progress ever for an inclusive society. We would be a completely different country. Right now, there's so much going on. There's divisiveness. There are people who are losing their lives over this. There are people who are dedicating their lives to this. But we can still picket in the streets. We can still fight. We can still speak our piece. We can go on MSNBC and say what we want to say. Under this, those things would be outlawed because they would start in the government, and then everything that you did, you'd be sued or you'd be thrown in jail or you'd be blocked at every counter. And for anybody who's listened this long, and thank you for watching this long, but anybody who is saying, oh, you're just like fear mongering, this is not what they mean. They mean what they mean. Just go remind yourself of what really happened from 2016 to 2020. Just go look at all of the things that actually happened. The people, the protesters, Black protesters and allies having rubber bullets shot at them without any sort. And I know this happened also under Obama. Hey, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But the difference is Obama didn't want that. He didn't like that. He tried to counter that. Trump encouraged it and ordered it. Okay. Next is using government power to elevate family authority, to implement policies that reinforce the traditional family structure, increase parental authority. The same thing that's the opposite of what they're doing in the other one, right? What they really mean is they're going to use government resources to support these policies, and they're going to impose conservative family values on Americans, disregarding the needs and rights of diverse family structures and individuals. I want to, again, speak to the people who are saying to themselves, wait a second, what is wrong with like going back to good family values? I would like that. I would like that cookie cutter 1950s black and white family, father knows best. I'd like that. First of all, what was happening to Black people back then? Let's just think about that. But second of all, if you are someone who's like, truly, no, I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about like, I do like family values and I like this conservative thing being the norm. If you like that, I happen to agree with you that that would be really nice if that were true. Do that in your own home. Do that. If you like that, implement that. Make that something that you teach your children. Make that something that you and your partner or yourself feel very strongly about, and that you encourage your friends and family. Tell them what you're doing. Hey, we have dinner with each other every night. We know where our kids are at all times. We have strict policies and rules, and we care and we listen. All the things that you are saying that you want, do that. That'll change the world and the country. But to have it come from the government, and the government is not even a real government, it is like a group of like lunatics who are just taking over and want to do what they truly want, while at the same time committing like literally committing sexual assault, whether they got away with it or not. The young president was accused and then convicted of this in a civil court. Trump. It's not like I'm making this up or exaggerating. It's actually happening. Number 17 of 20, making institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. They want to protect organizations and institutions from progressive social and cultural movements that are seen as threatening traditional values. Of course, this would involve attacking and defunding organizations that promote these progressive social causes. And it would not only stifle advocacy for marginalized groups, but it would reverse it and eventually cause harm to it. Number 18, imposing strict regulations on media agencies to control content. Please pay attention if you pay attention to nothing else. If nothing else on this list has moved you or felt like it has anything to do with you, let's say you are a single young white man, and you personally don't have anything affiliated. I'm not talking about the single young white men who do get this. Please listen to this one. What they're saying is they want to enforce regulations on media organizations to monitor and control, they say this, control the same people who want, limited government, the type of content they produce and distribute. And they would pass legislation and create oversight bodies to regulate media content. And I don't mean just like, oh, Janet's boob popped out, so we should find CBS. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about censorship and reduced press freedom and allowing the government to suppress dissenting voices and control public discourse. Rachel Maddow would be censored in a second. It'd be over. And maybe you're like, yay, that's cool. I don't like Rachel. I love Rachel. She's awesome. All of MSNBC, all of CNN, all of your local papers, any radio stations, anybody who's ever said anything, podcasts, anybody who's ever said anything against Trump would immediately be gone. But then anybody who wanted to say something that they did, you're like, oh, I voted for Trump. And then 2 years in, he did something that I don't agree with. And I'm an American and I get to say something about that. I voted for him, but I get to say, oh, I don't like that. No, it's over. Doesn't matter. You voted for him. So now you don't have that right. Do you understand? Is it resonating? And if you do understand, which is most of the people watching this, we have to tell others. We have to send this video around to people. I know it's a longer video, but send it around to them or summarize it for them. But we have to let people know. Number 19, implementing a personnel database about the appointment. It's just very similar to the one earlier, but this comes back to their 4,000 political appointments, including 1,000 that require Senate confirmation and 3,000 additional political jobs. There's training, and this could lead to an ideologically homogenous federal workforce, meaning everybody's the same and they all believe something very, very extreme. And it's none of it's good for us. I don't care how good the economy you think the economy is going to be or your economy is going to be, because that's what you really mean. If you're voting for Trump because you say that the economy is going to be good, you mean it's your economy is going to be good. And is it really worth all that to lose everything else? I've been broke, I've been homeless, I've been wealthy. I would lose it all if it meant I could keep all my rights. I wouldn't step on people and say, "Oh, well, I need my bank account to be nicer." Have another zero behind it before I die. Come on. Number 20, emphasizing the importance of restoring the family as the centerpiece of American life. Ties it all back to essentially what they're saying across the board. But this is a marginalization. This is us losing almost every right that we ever thought about having. I want to go through a few with you just to summarize. Give me a second here. I'm going to go through a few of these to summarize so you have them in order. Not all 20, but just, a few of them. Eliminating marriage penalties and federal welfare programs. Installing workforce or work requirements for food stamps, removing terms like sexual orientation and gender identity from federal rules and regulations, outlawing pornography or anything that they classify as pornography, including from educators, so certain books, etc. Shuttering telecommunications firms, so communications firms being shuttered, closed, that facilitate that said pornography, including publishing houses, anything that's broadcast, prioritizing family authority as a top policy goal at all costs, uh, the universal school choice that could lead to just defunding of all public schools or most of them, making it even tougher for someone who is just trying to, uh, get by in this world to learn. Um, yeah, the immigration policies, we haven't even talked about like rights of like your body. I didn't even get into that because there's been so many. But we talk about Handmaid's Tale. They want to get right into all over your body. They want to have rights. It's already illegal to have an abortion in several states in the United States after decades of it not being. It's already, if they get their hands on this country again, it won't be like 2016 to 2020, which what in itself was so bad that it culminated in hundreds or more of people storming the Capitol and threatening to kill people and destroying things and people actually dying. People actually have died from that. That'll look like child's play. Because imagine the ability to do that and then not have to have any recourse for it whatsoever. To do that every single day of every single week, whenever you want to, wherever you want to. And the government itself is not only letting you do it, not punishing you, but in some cases, calling on you to do it, calling on groups to do that. It will be the end of democracy as we know it. And it sounds so, but it's not far-fetched. It's true. Even let's say you don't believe all of what I'm saying, but let's pretend that 10% of this happens, 20% of it happens. Do we want that? And which 20% will it be? How will it affect you and the people you care about, people you love, the people who are strangers that I hope you love? Where is this in the Bible?